Did I miss anything interesting on Friday?
I think we had quiz.
I was at a fall leadership conference in Park City.
No, we had. I think we just finished up youth throw. Yeah, I think that's all we did. We finished up youth throw and the rest. That's it. Then we started. When did we start? We started. Or we're going to start the new one. Oh my gosh, Socrates and Midas, or somebody, that guy, they were at it. Yep. They duped it out.
So what'd you think of Hume?
What I just, it's dense. Or like, at least the vocabulary is. I mean, it's nowhere near as dense as but I mean, yeah, it was just really dense. But I could see what other things that we were talking about. Sounds well up there. If you think about it, okay, it's a compliment, but the undefining question is still bad. Okay. And like I said, nothing's bad. Okay. So I was thinking of all the qualifications, like this is bad, this is really bad. But it's like a compliment that bad, so it's still bad, that's just okay. Alright. So basically, it's a new right. And see if one and the video games works out. We finished. That's why Kyle was like. That's why I was like, oh. Look at that. I know you're okay with me dividing you. I'm just saying so you also make sure you don't think like, oh. Oh, necessary. Okay, I was trying to do okay. Here's my other bad joke. This is my last one. So I'm kind of doing experiments with a way to make it sound sort of yeah, but I just say, that's not saying so what I'm big on doing, especially in that class, I don't do all like aerodynamics. I'm excited. You're excited for these results. Man, I should have just like a capstone. I'm so sad. Oh my gosh. I like keeping it.
Does it help when it's like a responsibility for not only someone who places home with you or is it just
Well, he said he does say it's in so
Yeah, the video is too big. Oh.
I'm saying something.
Like,
And then the algorithm changes. So let's say we're talking about
Not much. Huh? Exciting. Kaylee's roommate started a prank war with me, so it's been hectic. Like, pretty edgy, like, I can't trust anything. Ever since I got them with chicken beulah cubes, I took off their shower head, put some chicken beulah cubes, and screwed it back on. So when they turned on the water, they took a nice chicken broth in the shower.
That's awesome.
Right. And then last night I made some of the hottest tacos I've ever made. But I didn't want to eat them because I don't like hot. I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, got their blazing hot sauce and mango habanero, and blended in some ghost chili peppers and Cholula peppers inside the sauce and had the taco meat soak overnight. And I cooked it in the sauce. And no, she wanted seconds. She wanted more. It didn't even burn her, so I took a bite. I'm out. I was out of breath. My mouth was still on fire. Oh, so now I'm just on edge waiting for her to get me back. I'm just hoping she doesn't take it out on my car.
Better hide that car.
Oh, I know. I about saran wrapped the car also last night, though. So. I did do it, but I cut it off, hoping that, I'm not going to involve the car if anyone's going to do that. How's your week been?
Not too bad.
I
Went to Salt Lake.
How's that? Cold?
A little bit more chilly. Not too bad.
So what were you doing at home in Salt Lake? Oh, that's cool.
Got new bikes, everywhere.
No, the best one I did to her is I took my shoelaces off and tied her door to the door across the hall so she couldn't get out of her door. That was a good one. When she gets me back, I'm gonna probably put icy hot on the toilet seat. That's a good fun one, right?
Never done that.
This is weird. Oh, okay. You know you can get word on your back. Right? Yeah, okay. Let's go. That's nice. Well, whatever.
We'll see. He's not none. He's not none.
We're number 3. I was gonna say all this, but
you translate the Arabic?
Okay for questions.
Okay.
Ready.
Who's not here today?
Person right here. So are you not getting the quiz back yet? Stuck together. Sorry about
By the way, we should all go. This month, I think it's like the 17th.
Okay, since that's already been asked, let me go ahead and throw this out. You may notice that when it comes to the quizzes, we're a little bit ahead of time. You have read the syllabus. You will notice that the way that the wording of the syllabus says, I take your top 10 highest quiz grades. So what that means is anything over 10, if let's say you've got 10 quizzes, you've got one that's a 4, and all the rest are 10. You take quiz 11 and it's all, or 20, all the rest of them are 20. The 4 gets bumped up. And that continues to happen if there are excess quizzes. So if there are 13 quizzes, I take your top 10 highest.
So you can basically just replace quiz grades with the future quizzes that we're going to take?
I take as your quiz score your top 10 quiz grades. Yeah, so in replacing, that's not correct because I don't replace the quizzes. I take only your top 10 highest quiz grades. But if it helps you to think of it like I replaced the previous quizzes to make you feel better about yourself and the previous scores that you got, so that they will be expunged from the history, that's fine. They won't be, but whatever helps you do better on the quizzes. But yes, that I take your top 10 highest quiz grades, meaning if there are more than 12.
Still have like 4 weeks left.
Yeah.
Are you just gonna randomly?
No, that's another good question. Hey, wait a second, this quiz is quiz 9. This is quiz 9, okay? So how are we gonna handle it since we have more than that number of weeks left? Well, if you look at the way the syllabus says we're gonna have a quiz every week we don't have an exam. Which means every week that we don't have an exam, there's going to be a quiz. So we will continue to only take your top 10 highest quiz grades, even though we're taking more than 12. Okay? So again,
If you get 10, 20s, you can just not do the other 3.
yes, that is intentional. Honestly, that's intentional. So that to reward individuals who have done what they've been supposed to do over the first part of the semester, why not just, if you've got your 200, show up, max, relax, look cool. And you're going to take it, okay? If you are ever at the point where you feel content with the quiz grades that you've got, I'm not going to make you take them. I'm not going to force you to sit down there and take that quiz. But there are a lot of people who are not in that situation. And I'd rather try to help you out than help one person or 2 people who have, 96, 190s out of 200 points. Okay? So, a few points of business as we get started. Hopefully I'm going long enough so everybody's here. A few points of business as we get started. First off, let's do this Friday. Peer review. Okay, peer review. Now, yes ma'am.
With the peer review, so we just go in Microsoft Word, like and show you, we type up our comments and send it to you, or send it to you?
Both.
Both.
Both. Okay. This is intended to be, let me explain the gist of it and then we'll get to what I'm working on. This is intended to be a help for you as you near the finished product of your paper. Now, if you haven't submitted a plan, there were a couple of people who didn't submit a paper, you still should probably do that so that I can help you out. But for those who, we'll assume the majority of people submitted some form of a paper, you are making comments in the hopes of providing constructive criticism to the individual. The key here is constructive criticism. If there's trollish behavior, you will get my full eye. There are very few things in the world that bother me more than trollish behavior, especially in belief systems, especially in conversations about deeply held personal beliefs. Okay? And so, okay. So if it's evident that there's some trolling going on, we'll respond. We'll respond respectfully. You make comments as we showed you on the computer earlier. However many, I don't care, as long as it should be enough. I said it should not, it is not unexpected, it is not, I should expect at least 10 to 15 comments over the course of the day. Okay. These can be about things like grammar, these can be things about argument, transitions, questions that you've had. Ideally, you'll use Word or Google, something where I can track the comments that were made, and then you'll conclude it by typing a paragraph at the bottom with your responses. So you need your comments, and then you'll need a closing paragraph.
What did you click on Microsoft when you had the little
I just shut down my computer, so I
Oh,
can't.
no, you don't have to.
I believe it, review. Review is the word of the tab. Review and add comments. Now, I understand that Mac users who prefer, like to give themselves, Mac users who may have something different, but they have words the same. Right? And even open source things usually have comments on the wall. But you can have but your own project. I can get that, you know. Actually, I really can't, but you know, this is somebody else's grade that you're working with. So why not take the time and effort to devote to helping them out? And you might learn something in the process. Yes, sir.
Is their final project going to be 6 pages or 8?
It says on the syllabus. Now, you may know, I do believe that it increases to 8 pages. That's intentional as well, because inevitably everybody will find something that they are missing or might want to add. So let's say even if you have an A paper, there's a couple people who read some really good A papers, and you're 6 pages. Well, if you feel like your argument is complete, it probably isn't. There are things that you can add, things like counterexamples, counter-arguments, alternative positions that you respond to over the course of your paper. So now I'm not going to say that you have to have a counter-argument, because not all positions may need to have, not all papers need to have a counter-argument. Other papers may need to have a lot more research done to flesh out their point. But if you find yourself sitting at 6 pages going, what rule should I have to write on? That might be some of the things that you might want to consider. Presenting alternative counterexamples, responding to those counterexamples. Okay? So yeah, it's going to be listed in the syllabus. That was something else that kind of concerned me a little bit with your all's papers. There were a number of people that were sitting right at the 5 pages, and you're not done with 5 pages. All right? I'm going to be, I was generous when it came to, say, late submissions. There were a number of people who had submissions, say, at 12:01, 12:02, later on the day on Saturday. I was generous when it came to that. You know Spider-Man on Family Guy. Everybody gets one. And for you all, the generosity when it came to the way that I looked at it was with the rough draft. I do not have the time for the final draft. I just frankly do not have the time on the final draft to be that generous. This is supposed to be the culmination of your work. I expect a good quality product. So if your computer catches on fire, or it melts down, or there's a hard drive crash, or there's an EMP, a sunspot occurs, and destruction of it. They said at one point, I remember listening to one of the podcasts that I listen to regularly, they said that one of the worst examples was it was so bad that telegraph wires started catching on fire. So the sunspot and sun behavior and activity went so bad that the telegraph wires got caught on fire. If that happens, I might, no, I still won't be pretty harsh. Because that's right, I hate it. But I'm expecting you to bring your A game. If you do not bring your A game, then you will have a B or C or D. Because here's the thing. I might get the reputation for being a harsh grader when it comes to this. but I would never subject you to something that I didn't think that you could handle. And I think when it comes to this, you are selling yourself short. You are smarter and stronger and better than you think you are about this stuff. If I didn't hold you to that standard, I'm doing you a disservice. All right. Let's jump into selections.
I have a question.
Shoot.
When we submit our peer review to you, are you gonna make a Canvas assignment for that?
I already have. I may not, I thought I have. Is it not on Canvas?
I looked last night and I didn't see it.
I
but-
made it today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I made it today. So double check it because I might just have to hit the publish button. But this is one of those things where if you're looking for easy points, this is easy points. Just do it. This is like the annotated bibliography. If you did it and you did it well, you're gonna get full credit for it. Okay, so this is a chance for you to get, think of that in perspective. The annotated bibliography is 100 points. With this and the peer review is 100 points. That is a significant portion of the whole semester's grade that I am giving you if you just try. All right. I now have successfully built up my A-hole cred. And now we can jump into Plato, where this is him being a jerk. Now, the good thing about the Republic is I will not run into the youth pro Nino missing in the names because that we ran into earlier. Okay, let's start off with the apology. So this is the point where the rep breaks down, everybody pulls out your text and getting down there.
What page is that?
Page 20, we have my version of text. Now here's a few things about the apology. The apology is unique amongst all other Platonic dialogues in that to call it dialogue is a bit of a misnomer. What we have here is, of course, Socrates was put to death for, the spoiler, Socrates loses. But what we have in this piece is what some scholars think, and I'm not quite there, I don't think there's enough evidence to say this, but some scholars think might be Plato's first book. Plato's first publication. You see, for the 10 years following Socrates' death in 399 BCE, there were a number of different publications that claimed to be the apology of Socrates. So this is not an isolated thing. There were a number of different authors who said that this was something that was Socrates, that was an event. What do we know about it? So again, it's not necessarily a unique work. May have been Plato's first dialogue, published for the purposes of showing Socrates' innocence. There were many different publications about the apology from different authors. However, this one is considered to be the closest that we have to what Socrates actually wrote. Now, let that one sink in for a second. This is considered by many to be the closest representation of Socrates' own words that we have. It's also, I think, one of the best dialogues. If you think that Socrates is a jerk, and he's a very big jerk in this dialogue, seeing him in the most human light. Let's set the stage for you. One man standing in front of a group of 500, because that was the size of the jury, 500 of your colleagues. Now, evidence has just been brought against you that could, and in fact will lead to your death. He is fighting for his right to live. There's some desperation here, there's some viciousness here that I think isn't quite evident in the other dialogues. And I like this dialogue because it shows to me a human side of Socrates, a vulnerable side of Socrates that may not be present in the other pieces. We're going to get to a little bit darker stuff in the next class when we talk about the final verdict and the way that he looks at it. But for now, I want to walk us through some different stages. And since you guys all read it, I can sort of sit back and let you guys have a conversation amongst yourselves about how it began. So, the introduction. What did you notice about the way that he introduces himself in the dialogue? About what he says about his speaking abilities, about his experience in the court. What did you all notice about that?
He's grading himself?
What do you mean?
Like, he's like you're gonna hear, and you've heard that I'm like this and this and this, and he's like, but in reality, I'm not like amazing. I'm not really good at these things. Kind of like downplaying himself.
Right, so one of the things you notice.
He's not really apologizing.
Okay, let's get that one out of the way first. Apologize. When you hear apology, we've got it in Western 20th century mindset. Apology does not mean I'm sorry.
Yeah, it means
Apology means defense. Right? So this isn't I'm sorry. So first off, he's trying to defend himself. And you're right, he begins by sort of downplaying himself, right? In fact, he frequently says about the many lies that they told me, you should be careful not to be deceived by me. When I show myself not to be an accomplished speaker at all, and I thought that was most shameless on their part, unless they indeed call someone who's an accomplished speaker a man who speaks the truth. So you're right, he downplays himself. Well, he upplays something else.
It's trustworthy, honest.
Yeah, honest, trustworthy. The idea of truth, and that he is the one who's advocating truth, and that the flowery words often get in the way of truth. Now, not that there's any sort of modern counter discussion or discussion about that. Politics cough up. What else do we know about the introduction? So he downplays his own speaking ability. What else does he say?
That he's never been in front of the courts before, so
Yeah.
he doesn't know how to go about it.
Right. How old is he at this point? 70. He's 70 years old. He's 70 years old. And he's never set foot in court before. That goes back again to the aspect of honesty that you were saying earlier. He's never had to do this before. 70. By the way, he has little kids. Yeah. 70 years old, has little kids running around. So,
He also,
what? No, go ahead.
he also mentions that people have spoken to the court about him before, and they've never believed it is true.
Right. And so, in fact, he mentions the historical accusations. So he's been brought up in court before, but he's never had to face these sort of charges. So what else do we know about the introduction? So he apologizes for not being an eloquent speaker. He says that he's never spoken in court before. He says at one point, this is my first appearance in a law court at the age of 70. I am therefore simply a stranger to the manner of speaking here. Just as if I were really a stranger, you would excuse me if I spoke in a dialect that was not what you were familiar with. But to concentrate your attention on whether I say is just or not. For the excellence of a judge lies in this, as that of a speaker lies in telling the truth, and then he mentions the truth. So he's defending himself. Now, the other observations about the introduction. Thoughts as you get into this.
Sounds like he's kind of desperate.
Yeah, there's an element of desperation. Again, put yourself in the shoes of what's going on. You're standing in front of 500 people. He is saying that he does not speak well in front of 500 people. Has any of you given a public speech in front of a large group of people, say 500 individuals? How did you feel about it? Maybe you're a public speaker and it's okay.
Well, naturally, that's not as much of an anxiety thing for me, but when you get to groups that big, at a point, it doesn't really make any difference, but it's definitely intimidating because, like, there's a lot.
There's a lot of eyes
Yeah,
on it.
like, there's a class, there's the 30
Right.
group, and then there's, like, major.
Yep.
It's different pressure.
I was just gonna say, I thought he was just talking humble.
Okay.
That's just.
So why do you think that he's being
Well, just avoid everything we said about he's never been there before, and he's just, I feel like, and he's, like you said before, playing up the honesty of just being like, I've never been in this before. I thought he even said something like, I'm not even sure if I know the manner of speech or the way of speaking in the courts, so it's like word choice is almost gonna be an issue.
Right. So he doesn't know the way that things go in the proper. He doesn't know Robert's rules of order. Did you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, a lot of people who do speak publicly will say that before they start speaking, like, oh, I'm not a very good public speaker, so sorry if I make a mistake. And
Right.
They start, I don't know, just go.
Right, hedging. You're showing your weakness, your vulnerabilities. Right. So, as we move on to page 22, 18, B, and C, we should see some familiar faces. Who do we see that's familiar? Who we've encountered before? Russian gentleman?
No.
Okay. Nidus. Nidus, or Nets. What do we notice about him? He's mentioned Where have we seen him previously? Meno. And do you remember that part of Meno that I read that said you gotta be careful about the way that you're speaking Socrates in case something bad might happen to you? Now we see what bad has happened to him. He says, what is he, now what's the laws here? What is he being accused of doing? What is Socrates being accused of doing? There are a number of different variations of it, but there's a couple of times where this appears. What is he being accused of? Yes?
He's being accused of being atheist and corrupting the young, right?
Right, or creating new gods, or being an atheist, and how you translate it, corrupting the youth. There's also something else that's mentioned a couple different times. Making the weaker argument the stronger. Making the weaker argument the stronger. And I see some real breath. Why might we be worried about making the weaker argument stronger in the community? Why might that be something where we bring charges or worry about it? Is being dishonest? Okay, so there's this element of dishonesty. Why might it be harmful to the community? That's what I'm asking. Why might this idea be harmful to the community? If I bring or make the weaker argument the stronger, be presented as the stronger, why might that be harmful to the community?
Changes the culture.
Also,
So like, if in modern day, like most of Utah is Republican, right? So if we start arguing on the left side a little bit more and start convincing people that the left side is right, then all of a sudden people are like, oh, maybe I'm a little more democratic, and it changes
but
the
the left side is
culture.
right. I hate everybody. No, I hate everybody. No, remember that. I hate everybody. But you're right. So there's this potentiality with dealing with culture, right?
Yeah, it turns into a public disturbance.
How so?
Like, it doesn't necessarily, but if you get people questioning, like, let's say, like, oppression. Like, this is a society, like, you're born rich and you're rich, or you're born poor and you're poor. It's pretty straight. And if you start, like, getting people to question that, like, it can start, like, a movement of people, like, it kind of, because obviously knowledge is power.
Right. Well,
You start changing.
yeah.
One thing, back home in Hawaii, they just passed a law that says you cannot grow genetically engineered crops in the island. And it was all started by these people that took, the scare of genetic engineering and blew it up to a point where they put a moratorium on it,
Right.
that it can't be, you can't restart it again until, you have proof that it's safe or something like that. And the proof is there, the proof that it's safe is there. Forbes just did a huge article about it. So it's this public scare that, based on things that aren't true, 600 people are out of jobs.
And so there's a specific example, and the great thing about this is we're talking about making the weaker argument the strong, making it seem like stronger. So adding in fear language, regardless of what we're talking about, talking in fear language, talking about confusion. And this is the issue of the sophist. Is there a hand?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe it threatens the people that are in power.
Yeah.
Like weak people.
Right, or it's easier to make a weaker argument.
Yeah.
To control that.
And that's what I was gonna say, I don't know, for me when I was reading through this, the more educated you are, you're more up there. And they didn't like that he was educating people. And more like morally, like he was teaching these core values to.
Well, remember, the issue here is what are those core values, but also, this is the issue of the sophist, that the sophist is going to tell you that winning the argument is the thing that matters. Winning the argument, getting the vote passed the way that you want matters. And whatever side of the political spectrum you find onto it, that's what we get to. Winning the argument matters. And Socrates is going to take the different approach, that it's not necessarily about winning the argument, it's about getting to whatever the truth is. So whatever the truth is, whatever it is the thing that we should be trying to seek. Yeah.
So the sophists are the ones that are in power.
No, the sophists are individuals who are, let's be clear here. Sophists are individuals who teach for money.
Think of a sophist like a lawyer, doesn't care what he does to get his side right. That's his goal.
I know some good lawyers who don't do that, so we're some generalization. But that stereotype is what you meant to tell me. So yeah, that there are some sophists, that's not all sophists do this. Gorgias is an example of a sophist who doesn't do this, who want to win, but winning at any cost, even in the case, and calling that morally correct.
Is Miletus a sophist?
No.
No. Okay.
So, let's talk, since I see some people zoning, let's move real quick to the conversation. He mentions two different accusations, the older accusation and the newer accusation. The older accusation is what? And again, since you guys are right, you can tell me, what is the older accusation? He's already sort of hinted at it. That what he does is, what is Socrates' purpose? This is, if you didn't catch it, there are a number of, again, number of famous names that there's a reason why I chose the text because it has nice footnotes. Aristophanes. Who's Aristophanes? It's footnote 4 on page 22. Ah, okay. Aristophanes is a famous playwright. Aristophanes is a famous playwright. He is a comedy writer. One of his works is called The Clouds, that features a character named Socrates, who is a big dummy. By the way, when we read the Symposium, one of the characters is going to be Aristophanes. And so, Socrates is depicted as a buffoon, an idiot. So let's look at this. He says in 18c, those who spread the rumor, gentlemen, are my dangerous accusers, for their hearers believe that those who study these things do not believe in the gods. Moreover, these accusers are numerous and have taken it a long time. Also, they spoke with you at an age when it would be most readily to have believed them. Some of you being children and adolescents. They won their case by default, as there was no defense. So he's talking about individuals who were making accusations against Socrates for a very long time, who were doing it when the people who were now accusing him were children, and there was no opportunity of defense. And so, let's take up the case from the beginning. He mentions the sophists. There were a number of sophists